You're listening to Death Metal Disco.
Where is he?
Here.
Where is he?
I'm here, bro.
Where is he?
Here.
Where is he?
Oh, come on, motherfucker. I am right here. The dude never listens. Hello, 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 my friends. It's been many, many moons, like 4 fucking months, since I said hi, and I missed you. I've been really wanting to record an episode for several weeks now. Well, even longer than that, but I've been lazy and I've been busy. I've been traveling a lot, but I really, really thank you for coming back and checking out another episode with the Death Metal Disco podcast. I'm James. I am your host of the Death Metal Disco podcast, which is basically an audio diary of my ramblings. So do with that information whatever you think you need to. If you share it with friends, that's cool. If you don't, that's also cool. If you listen to it, let me know how you think. You know, what do you think about it? If you don't listen to it, kind of hard to have input on it. Probably. At least I would think so. Like saying, oh, I hate Brussels sprouts, but then never having tried them. So, yeah. Like I said, this is more or less an audio diary, and things that pop into my head come out into this recorded fashion, and for better or worse. Like, I say some stupid shit on this, and I try really hard to make it somewhat entertaining. So, stories of my woes, relationship-wise, personal life-wise, work-wise. I talk about music. I talk about movies. I talk about kind of everything. I don't have a niche, which is probably why not a lot of people listen to this shit. Also, it's because I'm rambling most of the time to myself, and I need to be better. So, I apologize for being gone so long. This is episode 4 of 2023, I think. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's all I got. Maybe I'll look. All right, so I did verify, and yeah, this will be my 4th episode, and really the things I have to talk about, I probably want to have people come back and talk to me about them, at least a couple of them, because they're just so good. So yeah, that's what I should do. This is the 4th episode. I'm going to try really hard to make it to 13 episodes for the year. I only have a little over 3.5 months to do so. I guess under 3.5 months to do so. So I should probably get my life together. That sounds like a good idea. So, yay me. Anyway, so the last episode I put out in May, just after Mother's Day, I think, or on Mother's Day. And that was with interview with my friend Tasha, who I have known for a long time. We, worked together at the grocery store way back in the day. And now she is a content creator of the adult variety, and also the not so adult variety, but mostly the adult variety. Her TikTok and Snapchat shit is a marketing to get you to her adult content on the OF, if you're familiar with that. She's good people, and it was a good interview. And I really, really, really thank you, anybody who listened to that interview, because, I was surprised it didn't get all graphic either because of her or because of me. It was just a good interview. It answered a lot of questions just of curiosities that I have, things that I've heard. And it was a good interview. It was wholesome almost. Maybe not all the way, but somewhat wholesome. Mostly wholesome. And she's just good people. So thank you, Tasha, if you hear this. Thank you for doing that interview for me. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you, anybody that has liked and shared or listened or subscribed to any of my social medias or this or whatever. Just thank you. Appreciate you. Where have I been? I've been kind of everywhere. In May, I don't even remember where I traveled. I was going to write all this shit down just to remind myself, but I don't remember, and it's no big deal. Traveled a bit in May, was in North Carolina for a little over a week for go live for one of my projects. Went to my first NASCAR event, and it got rained out, so sat around and did nothing, and I was there for work, so didn't have any intention of going and actually watching the race except for on the screens that we had, but really, it was fine. It was a good time. Downtown Charlotte was fucking cool. My coworker and I stayed at the Grand Bohemian downtown, which is a pretty swanky fucking hotel. It's a Marriott property, And we did not really fit in with the clientele that seemed to be there. And by that, I mean we were always underdressed. And it was, like I said, it's a pretty swanky, modern swanky hotel. I dug it, and I would happily stay there again. And it was the cheapest hotel out of all the shit, at least for Marriott properties. And I think Hilton properties anywhere near downtown Charlotte or between there and the track, which was in Concord, like a half hour away. And it was just a cool hotel. They have a bar up top on the roof, which was a very good time. So I highly recommend that. This is not sponsored by anybody because I'm not cool enough to have sponsors because, I don't do a lot of episodes because I suck. I was in a pretty bad mood most of that week due to personal things, relationship, friendship things. And it was nice to go there and kind of distract myself from that. So it was good. I really enjoyed it. And if I get to go back to Charlotte, that's where I'm going to try to stay as long as it's not outrageous. So I go back to North Carolina soon, but staying in Raleigh. So not the same, unfortunately. Tried to get it moved down to Charlotte, but that was a no-go. Where else have I been? I was in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. Not a lot going on there, but it was a pretty cool place. And I'm not going to lie, the stereotype about Canadians and their donuts is with intention because that shit was spot on. I had some of the best donuts I've ever had, and I have had many a donut. And the donut mill in Red Deer was bomb diggity, bomb.com. It was fucking delicious. I'm diabetic, so I shouldn't have donuts. And unfortunately, I did. I'm not going to lie. More than a few. Because people kept bringing them to our meetings. And they were really, really good. So, yeah. It was a good time. I was there with one of my coworkers who was relatively new. And hadn't hung out with him much. And he was awesome. He is awesome. So, that is also a plus. Where else have I been? Spending a lot of time in Vegas lately. For better or worse, it was super fucking hot down in LA. I just came back from LA. And then Orange County. I was in Orange County for a little while too. Been bouncing around a bunch. I was home for 3 or 4 weeks after the Canada trip. That got boring, but I've been busy. I've been going to see movies with Chris. He is recently divorced, and we got the AMC A-list thing, so I think it's like $23 a month to go see 3 movies a week, and you go see 2 movies, and boom, you've hit that number because movie going is expensive these days, and it's worth it. We've seen some good movies, some meh movies, and then throw in the Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs on Shudder, and we've seen a lot of movies. He sees more than me all the time anyway, but I've seen a lot of movies, so I'm going to talk about a couple of them. And my air conditioning is going off now. It's a little warm today. It's like 91 degrees. But anyway, hopefully I'll be able to get most of that sound out of this audio. First movie I need to talk about is Oppenheimer. Anybody who's ever done a book report on the atomic bomb or the Manhattan Project or any of the nuclear proliferation of the world basically knows at least the name Oppenheimer. If you've paid any attention to anything Hollywood, you know Oppenheimer. And if you're smart, you've gone and seen it. Christopher Nolan makes some of the coolest movies ever, in my opinion. He is very, very skilled at what he does. And this movie might actually be my second or third favorite of his. My first is The Dark Knight. There's something about that movie that is so good, and I think most of it's Heath Ledger, but that whole movie is just phenomenal. One thing Nolan does now, especially at least since Batman Begins, is with his movies is the music, the soundtrack, and the music, whether it's the soundtrack, whatever music he adds to it, or if it's the orchestration of it, is just insanely fucking loud and attention-getting. So you're forced to hear the things. Whether or not you hear the dialogue is a whole different story, but I've recently been told by a friend, my friend Michelle in North Las Vegas. Well, she's in Las Vegas, but I know her from there. We were talking about it at dinner the other day, and she's the one who told me that he doesn't go back and do any ADR, so recapturing the dialogue audio dialogue replacement, I think is what it's called. He doesn't like to do that if he can avoid it. And what you hear is what you hear, or what you don't hear for that matter. So between that and the way that the music in all of his movies is just fucking loud, I think it makes you try to listen harder. The thing about Oppenheimer, and I was stoked to see it since I saw the trailer for it back in February or early March, is, if you know from my first 2 episodes of this season, went to Japan. I was big. I did a lot of research papers on the atomic bomb back in the day when I was in school. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I feel connected to Japan somehow, even before I went. Japanese culture, or maybe connected to just the absolute destruction that comes along with that kind of technology. But it was, the information in the movie really wasn't anything I didn't already know. And then having done all the reports in school on nuclear, this, that, and the other, and then being obsessed with Japan and all that, I knew a lot of the stuff. Going to Japan in March really like refreshed a lot of that for me, because I went to the Hiroshima Nuclear Peace Museum, Nuclear Peace Memorial Museum, I can't remember how it's worded. But I went there, and a lot of the stuff about Oppenheimer was included, most of it actually, at least everything that was related to it, not the personal struggles for the most part. But so seeing Oppenheimer, and we saw it in IMAX because it was shot in IMAX, was insane. Like it was just brilliantly done. Cillian Murphy, no idea how the fuck he says his name. I've always called him Cillian, but I think that's wrong. I've liked him in everything I've seen him in since 28 Days Later, which is the first thing I saw him in. And aside from his piercing eyes, he's just a good actor. And you don't get to see Robert Downey Jr. play a fucking asshole all that often, other than, you know, the assholisms that come along with being Tony Stark, and occasionally, you know, I guess pretty much all of his characters are assholes, but this one was like top-notch, top-tier asshole. So it was good to see him as Strauss in that. It was just a fucking good movie. The cinematography, everything they did, like the wardrobes, everything, making it legit for the time period, for the 40s. And they bounced around time periods a lot, not like huge jumps or anything, but pretty significant jumps. I don't know, maybe that's why they chose Murphy for the role. It's just because Peaky Blinders, he looks good in an old school type suit. I don't know, but he was fucking phenomenal. And I will be surprised if multiple people don't win various awards for that movie. They should. If they don't, it's a hot fucking mess, which everything's a hot mess anyway. But Oppenheimer, go see Oppenheimer. We've seen some movies. Oh, and I didn't even include the one I wanted to see in here, but or the one I wanted to talk about on my outline. But I'll do that on the next episode. Probably one of the creepiest movies I've seen in the last couple of years just came out from Australia. Talk to Me. That movie was genuinely creepy in parts. Few good jump scares. Really good acting. I was surprised at how good. You never know how good the acting is going to be when it's like teenagers, or even older people playing teenagers and younger people. And with the trope of the movie, you know, the main plot being teenagers doing stupid party tricks to summon the dead or the spirits of the dead, blah, blah, blah. That is not original. However, the take that they had on that particular trope was original, and they did a really good job of making it feel like it's not something you've seen before. It's not the type of movie you've seen before, other than the fact it is. That, I mean, like I said, it's not an original idea in itself, but the way they made it theirs is, they did a fantastic job. It was very, very brutal in parts, and I'm just meaning like things came out of left field that you just didn't expect, and there was a sufficient amount of gore. And I say sufficient saying, you know, it's a horror movie, so you expect some sort of violence, and they had it. There's good build up, good tension, lots of tension, and the acting. Like I said, the acting in that movie was really good. My favorite scene in the whole movie, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it and maybe wants to, is when the younger brother finally gets in on the party trick. And I'll just say that things do not go very well for that young man. That part was terrifying. Like, I don't get scared of movies, and it didn't scare me, but it was a terrifying thing to watch. Like, it was just, it started off okay, and then it just devolved. And the commitment with which it devolved was very impressive. And I mean, if I was a younger kid, I would put that scene on par with movies like The Exorcist back in the day. And it's just awesome. Like, I really, really liked it. Australian movies, them and New Zealand movies tend to be very good, I've noticed. And I can't think of any other Australian movies off the top of my head that I really liked. But the first one I remember liking that I knew was Australian from the get-go was, it's called The Hounds of Love. Or Hounds of Love. I don't know if there's a the. That one is disturbing in a whole new way. Not really a whole new way, but it's based on reality. The concept being kidnap and sex traffic and rape. So if you're not into, if you get triggered by any of those things, I definitely don't recommend it because they didn't pull any punches. It was fucking brutal. Saw it at the Overlook Film Festival in Oregon. That was the first year I think they had it. Had it there at least. And, they even told us it's going to be brutal. And I don't remember if we saw it the first year or the second year, but it was brutal. I think that was the first movie we saw in that one in 2017 or 2018. Can't remember. That movie kind of set the stage for my expectations for other Australian horror movies. And it's based on a true story in Australia of a husband and wife who really like to kidnap young ladies and have their way with them, basically. And it's fucking brutal. Like, that's all I'll say about it. It's just fucking brutal. If you're into really testing the limits of what you're willing to watch, go for it. If even the rapey scenes, they were pretty brutal. The whole concept is brutal. I just can't stop saying brutal when it comes to that movie. But Hounds of Love, if you're a horror genre person, it's worth a watch. I don't know. It was good in the sense that the psychological portions of it outweighed everything else, and just the damage. And a friend of mine, she was asking why I liked horror movies, and for me, horror movies is not about the jump scares. I don't really get jump scared. Sometimes they're good and they'll get me, but it's what would happen, what would be my thought process if I was in those characters' shoes. And if they're telling the story good enough, it's not hard to think about those things. And like, oh my God, how would I survive such and such, blah, blah, blah. If they're not telling the story all that well, you're probably bored thinking about other shit. So, and that's where nudity comes in, which she judged me on, but it's like, I didn't put the nudity in there. I don't watch the horror movies for the nudity. But if I see some boobs, I'm not going to be mad about it most of the time. Unless it's like The Shining. Those boobs I'm good to never see again. So anyway, Talk to Me. Pretty stellar flick, not going to lie. The ending was awesome. I loved the ending. They did a really good job with just sort of wrapping it up, but also leaving it open to possible sequels, and then showing, both sides of the coin, as it were. I'll leave it at that. So go see Talk to Me. Moving away from the horror world and Oppenheimer, comedy. I'm a big fan of comedy. I love comedy, probably more than horror, because I like to laugh. And, whether it's, family fun humor, or if it's something like late night humor, or what do they call it? Raunchy humor. I'm probably going to watch it just because I like to laugh. And if a movie can make me laugh a lot, then that's great. And the two comedies I've seen recently that I genuinely loved, No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, and Strays. And Strays just came out, just saw it last night. And No Hard Feelings came out over a month ago, I think. No Hard Feelings, the story of Jennifer Lawrence, who is trying to save her recently deceased mother's house from being sold to, tourists. She lives in, I think they said Maine or somewhere up in New England. Where the hell was it? Like Martha's Vineyard type of shit. Something where they have a genuine tourist season, and it's rich people that come and they buy up all the houses and knock down the original ones and rebuild or whatever. And basically the locals are, if you've ever been to a ski resort, the locals are like, oh my God, it's tourist season. Get these fuckers out of here. Like pretty much anybody who works in Telluride, when we're all there for the Telluride Horror Show, or, ski season, I'm sure is worse. During the summer, they have all kinds of festivals and stuff. But, the locals probably hate most of those people, except for the fact that they bring business to their stores. So Jennifer Lawrence is I think she's a waitress or a bartender, trying to save her mom's house, basically, house she grew up in. And she's a little bit immature in the world, in life. But, she sees an ad from some wealthy, well-to-do folks that they want somebody to date their son to prepare him for life in college and life as an adult, because he's a crazy introvert and they want to bring him out of his shell, blah, blah, blah. I like Jennifer Lawrence. She's fucking amazing.
What do you mean? What do you mean by shaking out? What are you doing? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
I can't really put a pin on it. So, J-Law, I love you. But the movie was good. Nothing really all that original. The ending was, it could have gone, two different ways, and it went the way I think it should have went, which is good. Not the way that is predictable really all that much. But she was brilliant in that. From what I've seen, it looks like she had a very big part in making sure that movie got made. I guess they've had it for a while. She was taking a break from acting, and COVID and all that shit hit. So then she was ready to come back and made a big stand to make that shit happen. And it was good. It was a genuinely entertaining movie. The other movie is Strays, and we just saw Strays last night, Chris and me and his son, Jeremiah, who just turned 18 last week. So he graduated in May. He turned 18 last week. He's growing up, and today, I haven't seen yet, but he was taking his driver's test today. So fingers crossed he made it. Hopefully you made it, Jeremiah. If you didn't, I'm just going to make a lot of fun of you forever and ever and ever. Just kidding. I failed my first one, but like I told you, that wasn't necessarily my fault. So anyway, Strays, talking dogs, dogs that talk to each other essentially, and how they are unhomed, homeless strays. They're stray dogs. One of the concerns I have with both of these movies is that they would have showed, in the movie theater, they showed the Red Band trailer, which is, the R-rated trailer, and, drop F-bombs and all this other shit. And a lot of times in movies, when they have the Red Band trailers, especially the comedy movies, is they show the entirety of the funny things in the trailer, in the Red Band trailer, because they're trying to rope you in to go see it. No Hard Feelings kind of had that. There were several scenes that weren't in the trailer that made the movie funnier. But Strays, I was really worried about, because it's a fucking movie about dogs and, they're talking and whatever. But no, they definitely saved the good shit for not the trailer. They kept that shit in the movie where it belongs and didn't put it into the Red Band trailer. And I'm happy about that, because it was fucking hilarious. Raunchy humor for sure. But it's, Seth Rogen produced it. I don't remember if he had an acting role in it. Will Ferrell was the main dog. Jamie Foxx was the other main dog. A surprisingly large cast of people and mockery of other dog movies was fucking fantastic, including people who were in those movies that they mocked. It was just hilarious. A hilarious way to go see a 10 o'clock p.m. movie. And it was absolutely worth staying up late, and I'm really glad I did. So go see Strays, or wait till it comes out on, video. If you can go see it. It's fucking worth it, in my opinion. Get a laugh. So Strays, yay. There is a Yellow Lab in Strays. And he doesn't have a very huge part, but his part is probably my favorite part. Of all the parts of the movie and all the characters of the movie, the Yellow Lab. You got to look for him. He'll be the Yellow Lab. Yeah. His shit was great, so he says. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, go see Strays. So one other update I did not put at the beginning was that Empyrean Eclipse, my band, my melodic death metal, heavy side of mellow death, old school melodic. I don't know what you want to call us, but we're technically melodic death metal. We are looking for a drummer. I might have mentioned it in previous episodes that we parted ways with our drummer. I don't remember if I did or not, but I announced it on the social media just a couple of weeks ago as being an official thing. But yeah, we need a drummer. So posted that and got an interested party who plays drums for the band Cordyceps, which is from Vegas, but he lives in Colorado now. I don't know how long he's lived here or if he just moved, but he lives up in Greeley. We haven't had a chance to get an audition from him. He's rebuilding his basement, and we got to try to get click tracks and all that shit sent to him so he can send us some stuff. And I'm terrible about reposting that we're looking for somebody. So we've only had one interested party and one person say, hey, if we need somebody for a show, to let him know. And he's already in like 4 or 5 bands. So, but it's fine because it's not like we play last minute shows ever. But anyway, Cordyceps, he sent that to me to check out. And it's super brutal death metal, like brutal slammy death metal, but faster than slammy. So just brutal death metal. And his drumming is fucking badass on it. I am not the biggest fan of the super brutal death metal bands, but the ones that are good for reasons. And I dig it. I've been listening to that album pretty frequently, just to feel it out and get a feel for his drumming, since we can't jam with him yet and can't see what's up yet. But yeah, Cordyceps, if you're a brutal death metal person, you should check them out. And then maybe, who knows, maybe we'll get some other hits for drummer stuff and we'll be able to provide them with the click tracks that have been requested so far and get some actual auditions, or at least more interested parties than one. And I don't blame them if they're not interested. We're fucking lazy, so that's cool. Whatever. Another band that I am not going to lie, I have been obsessed with for a month or so. Their latest album specifically I've been obsessed with, and then I did some reading on them last week and found out more about them because I thought they were new. I didn't think they were new, but I thought based on the popularity of their album, and I think I saw it in a TikTok video or something. TikTok video or some other kind of video on social media. The song sounds similar enough that I knew it was the same band, and at one point I Shazammed it. And I was like, oh, okay, I've heard of this band, but never really heard them. Bad Omens is the name. I want to say they're from West Virginia. At least the singer is, I think. But they are historically a metalcore band. Lots of screaming, some occasional clean singing. Definitely metalcore vibes on their first few records. But this newest one, I would call more of a pop rock, not necessarily radio rock per se, but it rides that line where it's catchy enough and very, very well produced enough that you could easily hear it on the radio. And it's also not heavy enough to not be heard on the radio. Most of the songs, I don't remember the name of the heaviest song on there. It's like the second to last song. It's their heaviest one, and that's more of a throwback to their older style. But the other songs they're just so well produced, and they're catchy, and they sit in your head. And the singer, who in the other albums, which I had only heard, I hadn't heard any of the other ones until after 17,000 listens of the newest one, which is called The Death of Peace of Mind. I finally added the other 2 or 3 to my Apple Music and listened to the one that came out before this one. And it is definitely more metalcore and lots more screaming type vocals. So this newer one is, if you don't listen closely enough, you almost think it's two different bands, to be honest. And I've only heard the other one just the one time, and I didn't listen to the one or two others I downloaded yet. But if you were to compare The Death of Peace of Mind to the one that came before that, and I didn't write that down, unfortunately, you might think that they're two different bands, or maybe two different bands with maybe the same guitar player, maybe the same singer. If you listen closely enough, you can tell it's the same singer, especially when he goes to his clean songs on the older stuff. But his newer stuff, the newer music is so fucking polished and catchy. And I either read an interview or I saw a YouTube video where they're talking about, most metal bands, maybe not even most, but a lot of metal bands write their music, especially lyrically, with a perspective of, anti-religion, anti-God, that type of thing. But he said that they wrote their lyrics from the perspective of God and Jesus and whatnot, which I think is an interesting take. I don't think that applies to any of the songs on this new record based on the lyrics that I've looked up for 3 or 4 of the songs. Didn't really have anything to do with that I could tell, at least. What thematically, I don't think there's a theme to it per se, but what I did notice is the lyrics for this new album, at least the 3 or 4 songs I looked up, seem to be much more of a personal nature and more of a interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships type of thing, like the songs of breakup type of situation. The Death of Peace of Mind is, that's the title track, and I kid you not, I have probably played that 500 times, and it does not get old to me. And it's the lyrics, the way they're sung, and then the variety in the music. That particular song starts off with more of an electronic drum beat and some synth and some very falsetto, well, at least for me, falsetto, almost whispery voice stuff, and then into singing. And then as the song progresses, they add in the bass player and the actual drummer and then the guitar, and then it expands and has this climax type of thing. And the song itself, The Death of Peace of Mind, is part of the line, love is the death of peace of mind. And when you read the lyrics, it seems more of a not necessarily abusive relationship, but a toxic relationship, and maybe not even toxic, but a challenging relationship. So is it toxic? Maybe it was toxic for him. Was it abusive? Maybe it was for him, but more of a relationship of, we keep coming back to each other. Are we going to survive type of thing? And the chorus is where it's at. The pre-chorus verse, the section right before the chorus, I think is what cued me into it when I heard it on TikTok or wherever the fuck I heard it, because it's kind of sexy. Like, it's a sexy song physically. Like, when I listen to it, I'm like, this is kind of hot, but it's I fucking love it, and I'm actually going to play it at the very end of this. But if you have not checked out Bad Omens, at least the newest one, The Death of Peace of Mind, I think I've sent that to Ryan, my guitar player. It is, it's man, I listen to a lot of different music, so sending music like that to some of my more mostly metal friends is risky, but I don't know. I like to keep an open mind to a lot of things, and I just can't stop. Like, I will wake myself up in dreams with that song in my head. Like, it's been happening a lot lately. I just can't fucking get it out of my head. It's just that catchy. There's probably subliminal messages in there, some shit that are like fucking with my brain, but it is a really catchy song. At least in the feel. It takes a little while to get all the lyrics just because the way the guy sings, He goes from like a high throat singing, not throat singing like Mongolian throat singing, but his head voice, I guess is what they might call it, to his natural voice with a little bit of screaming action. It's just fucking cool. But then when you look up the lyrics, that's the lyric. I mean, they're just really well written lyrics. They're really well thought out. And I'm sad I didn't think of them, to be honest. They could be considered a little bit emo, or screamo, as it might be, but I don't give a shit. Like, the fucking songs are good, and check it out. But I will play it. Just the chorus from this song. I think they sing the whole chorus 3 times, and this would be the second time in. So it's got a little bit more of the buildup of the instruments and such, but it's, I don't know. Check it out. It's probably going to get me fucking demonetized on all the things, which not like I'm making any money on this shit anyway, so whatever. But that's going to be it for this episode. Keeping it a little bit short. I think I'm at 40 minutes before I've edited anything. And thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience with me. And I really, really appreciate all the support that you do give me, even if it's just a listen. That's this thing. I mean, if I had 0 listeners at all, I'd probably still do this. But it's nice to know that people do sit through my ramblings. And weirdly, that is meaningful. So I really appreciate you. I hope you all are staying safe and trying not to boil to death. Also, Maui. I don't know if I have anybody from Hawaii that listens to this, but the Maui fires were just the week before last, and that shit was brutal. So if you or you know somebody who was impacted by that, and not just that your tour plans or your travel plans got canceled, but if you're genuinely impacted or family member or something is impacted by that, my hearts go to you. And I'm not one for thoughts and prayers, but just know that, positive vibes. Whatever, if you can donate to any of the actual established charities that have been set up for that, you should. I've already done that. That fire is fucked up, and it took out a lot of things, took out a lot of people, and displaced even more. So that's my parting thoughts is about super sad fires. Anyway, love you all. Thank you. Be safe, and I will see you hopefully soon.
When the curtains call the time, will we both go home alive? It wasn't hard to realize love's the death of peace of mind. When the curtains call the time, will we both be satisfied? It wasn't hard to realize love's the death of peace of mind.
Thank you for listening to Death Metal Disco.